you'll kill me and you'll kill yourself. You hear me? You kill me and you're dead. We're trapped, Urko. You and me, together, just the two of us, you understand? We're trapped.
Everybody, and welcome back to Ape Nation, your number one source for all things Planet of the Apes on YouTube. My name is Josh, and today I am giving my review of episode 3 of the short-lived 1974 TV series, Planet of the Apes. If you like what I do here and want to show your support, be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. This is a series of reviews following every single episode of the show, all leading to a full series review later this year, and if you haven't seen my reviews of the first 2 episodes, you can check them out right here. For those who want to follow along with my reviews, or just want to watch the entire show, I've put a link down in the description where you can watch the show completely free. And as always, for those who haven't seen the show and don't want to be spoiled, I'll start with my general thoughts up top before going deeper into the episode and giving all my more detailed thoughts. So if you want to know my thoughts but don't want to be spoiled, you can watch the first part of the video, click off, go watch the episode, and then come back to hear the rest of what I have to say. So with all of that said, let's dive into Planet of the Apes episode 3, The Trap. After becoming buried alive during an earthquake and being trapped in an ancient San Francisco subway station underground, Burke and General Urko are forced to work together to make their escape. Meanwhile, above ground, Galen and Virdon try to figure out a way to help Burke with the assistance of several of Urko's guerrilla soldiers. So just kicking things off with my general initial thoughts of the episode, this is easily my favorite episode of the show by far. I think episode 3 is clearly the best. The character development for Burke and Urko in particular is fantastic. I think the tension is really well utilized in this episode. It's such a well-directed episode. The story is a bit formulaic just because it's a formula we've seen a handful of times in the last several decades when it comes to TV. It's been used to death. That being said, it's really fun and it's really compelling to watch, and it's really well done, and it lends itself to some really excellent character moments for everybody, whether it be Burke, Virdon, Urko, Galen, and another character as well. So I think this is a really fantastic episode. I loved it pretty much from start to finish. I was ready to press play on episode 4 immediately after it ended. I really loved this episode. I have a lot more I want to say about it in just a second, but those were just my general first initial impressions after it ended. Getting into my more detailed thoughts, like I said before, this is a really well-directed episode. I was actually really surprised within the first few minutes how much more, I don't know if I'd say mature, but how much more intense this episode felt than the previous 2. It felt like it was really finally starting to find its stride, and obviously it's not going to compare with the things we get in the films, but it actually felt like it was almost competing with the quality level of the filmmaking in the original movies, and I was really surprised by that. I thought the creation and the usage of the tension throughout this episode was incredibly well done. It had a very kind of ticking time bomb-esque quality to it throughout the entire thing that just amped up more and more as it goes along. And then, like I also said initially, the story follows a TV formula that has been seen dozens of times throughout the history of television. It's that classic, a hero and a villain character are trapped in some scenario and they have to put aside their differences and work together in order to make their way out of it. And it's again something we've seen a million times, but it's done really well here, and it makes for some really compelling drama, and it makes for some great development between the characters. I loved that dynamic between Burke and Urko. It's really fantastic, and I was not expecting to see that. I also wasn't expecting to feel that way, and I honestly could have spent another 10, 20, 30 minutes just watching these two get to know each other and not necessarily come to an understanding, because it's a little bit different than something like the relationship between Taylor and Dr. Zaius in the original movie, but it definitely has shades of that, and I was really not expecting that, especially this early on in the show. So I was really moved in a way by that, and I really liked seeing that. Another thing, and this kind of ties into some of the world building that I've loved in the show so far, this is the first time we're seeing some outdoor remnants of human cities in the original Planet of the Apes universe in that timeline. And I think that's really cool, seeing the abandoned buildings, seeing the rubble and everything, kind of giving you ideas and hints about what happened there. We haven't really seen that. All we've ever really seen is just deserts and villages. We haven't seen like actual human city remains. Of course, we saw the underground city and beneath the Planet of the Apes, but beyond that, we've never seen too much. So I thought it was really cool getting to see that, having that built out a little bit more. And then going back to what I was talking about with Urko, this is where he is, I think, starting to become a really good, really interesting villain. He's smart, he's very intimidating in this episode, and I think Mark Leonard is growing to be really strong in this role. He has potential, I think, even to rival some of the movie villains, maybe not like Koba or Dr. Zaius or Dr. Hasline or anyone like that on that caliber, but I definitely think he is someone who I could see becoming a really strong villain who, again, could rival some of the movie villains. I also think this has the best use of teaching the apes the history of humans so far that we've seen in the show. I think that everything that happens in the subway station is really fun to watch. It's really interesting to see unfold, and everything that happens with Urko uncovering the poster and his kind of psychological breakdown over that, where it's gonna go. Is it gonna go anywhere? Maybe it's not gonna go anywhere. Maybe it's just kind of a thing that happens and it's left by the wayside, but it really seems like they're maybe leading to something in that regard, and maybe it could spark some sort of human revolution or ape-human war. I don't know, but it definitely seems like it could be leading in that direction. But moving on from Urko and all that stuff, I want to talk about Roddy McDowall, because I think his acting in this episode is the best it's been so far. And actually, I think is some of the best acting he's done in the franchise, you know, even not topping, but coming close to some of the stuff we see in Escape and in Conquest. I think his performance here is really great, and it's making me even more excited to see what they do with the character of Galen throughout the rest of the show. Galen doesn't get a whole lot to do in this episode just because it's more focused on Urko and it's more focused on Burke, but I think Galen is really good in this episode, and Roddy McDowall just elevates him so much higher than I think he is already. And then as for some other characters, I think the little tribe of Urko's army, his little guerrilla band, is actually a lot more menacing and a lot more enjoyable than I was ever expecting. I think Zako becomes a really surprisingly compelling character by the end of this episode, and I actually kind of hope we see more of him. I think that could cause for some friction that could lead to even more of an interesting dynamic between characters, especially between him and Urko, and where that could go. So I really liked him, and I also just was not expecting the turn that happens at the end with him and Urko. I was a little mixed at first because I really thought that by the end of it, maybe Urko would just let them go and it would be that kind of development of him. But when he has that switch at the end after discovering the poster and he orders Zako to kill him, I was kind of shocked. And on top of that, having Zako be the one go, no, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let you go and I'm going to disobey Urko. I wasn't expecting that. It was a bit of a switch of roles that I thought was going to be kind of the opposite. But when they went that direction, I was a little mixed at first because I kind of wanted Urko to be taken in a more empathetic direction, but they didn't. They kind of backtracked, but then went in a different direction with the other character. And so it was an interesting switch, and I really appreciated that. I was not expecting it, and I thought overall it was a solid choice that subverted my expectations in a positive way, I think. And then just a couple smaller things that I really appreciated. The Morse code stuff that they were using to communicate between each other. It's a little convenient, but I thought it worked and it was really clever. I liked that they were using Morse code to communicate between above and lower ground. That was a really smart way to go about it. And then also the music in this episode, easily the most memorable and most well done so far in the season. It added to that tension from the directing overall, and it also had some really fun homages to the Jerry Goldsmith score that I really appreciated, especially in the first few minutes, and then again towards the end you hear definitely some very clear hints that are moving towards that original music. So overall, I loved this episode. I thought it was easily the best episode so far. It got me so excited for the next one. I can't wait to see where they go from here. I was almost shocked with how much better this episode was compared to how kind of not let down I was by episode 2, but just was meh with episode 2. I thought this was not just better than the first episode, which I really enjoyed, but it was like a really fantastic, I think, episode of television. So I was really surprised, but really happily surprised, and really enjoyed this episode. But I want to know what you guys think of this episode. Is this one of the fan favorites? Is this one that you enjoyed as well? Like I said, I think it's easily the best episode. I loved the character development between Burke and Urko. I loved everything that was going on underground. I loved all of the usage of human history being unveiled. I loved the switch up of characters between Zako and Urko. Just so many things about this episode I thought was really enjoyable and really fun and really clever. So I want to know what you all have to say about it. it down in the comments below. I will of course be back next week with my review for episode 4 of Planet of the Apes, the TV series. But until then, thank you so much for checking out today's video here on Ape Nation. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. I'll catch you in the next one, so until then, goodbye.